Welcome to Proverbs 31 Creatives. My name is Brianna Coleman. I'm so excited for this new chapter in my walk with the Lord. My goal with this podcast is to encourage other women to grow their creativity, entrepreneurship, finances, life, health, and most importantly, grow closer to Jesus. I'll be having conversations with guests with anointed women in faith and learning right along with you. Are you ready to start your journey to become the creative Proverbs 31 woman you've always wanted to be? All right, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Proverbs 31 Creatives. I'm your host, Brianna Coleman. I hope you guys really enjoyed the last episode. Happy Friday. I hope you guys have had an amazing week so far. The weekend is here. Treat yourself to a coffee today, and let's finish this week out together. At the time of recording this, I typically like to try and record my episodes about a week or two in advance before the episode comes out. So at the time of recording this, pumpkin drinks are out everywhere. I typically like to try to wait until September 1st to try to get anything pumpkin flavored related, anything like that. But I did not have fall for 6 years when we lived in Florida, and fall is my favorite season. So best believe I was one of the first ones in line to get my pumpkin cream cold brew situation. However, my friends tell me that I drink coffee like an old man, which I kind of do. I drink my coffee just iced coffee black with a little splash of cream, no sugar, no anything like that. When I first started drinking coffee, I was in high school playing sports and I couldn't have all that sugar. So that's just how I'm used to drinking my coffee, is not a lot of sugar at all, or if any. So my favorite way to enjoy pumpkin drinks is that black iced coffee with a splash of cream and then getting my pumpkin cream cold foam on top. And to make things even better, right now in Cincinnati, there is basically no humidity. It feels like fall. We are going to have a couple days of heat, but other than that, there's really no humidity. I'm really loving this weather so far. I've had the windows down. I've had my balcony door open, reading my Bible in the morning on my balcony. It has just been absolutely beautiful, and I'm just loving this weather right now. One thing that happened this week that was really cool, I completely underestimated Instagram threads. If you are a business owner, if you are trying to cultivate community online, if you are trying to grow a small business, if you are an artist trying to get your artwork out there, if you're musically talented and trying to get songs and stuff out there, which I know there's a lot of different ways, but that you can promote different things, but I'm not sure if I have just built my Instagram threads algorithm brick by brick or what, but it is currently my favorite app right now. Shout out to if you're watching this from my threads community, shout out to you. There are so many Christian women on that app just glorifying the Lord, sharing their testimonies. I go on there and it's talking about how somebody just got baptized, or somebody's newly sober, or Jesus set them free from depression. It is absolutely incredible. I have met so many incredible women from threads, and actually I'm trying to line up guests from connections that I've made on the Threads app. So you probably will be seeing some guests come on the podcast that we met on Threads. So I'm really excited about that. If you are not on Instagram Threads, come on over. It has been a Jesus-filled party over there these last couple of weeks. So I am absolutely loving seeing that side of social media, despite all of the negativity that is out there right now. But to get into today's topic, I was actually bouncing back and forth between two topics that I really want to talk about. And I honestly was just praying, and I genuinely did not know what I was going to talk about until the last minute, to be honest with you. I typically like to film on Saturdays, so I'll have my notes typed up days in advance, so that way I can kind of think on it, pray on it, listen for the Lord's instruction. But to be honest with you, I was going back and forth so much with these two topics that I genuinely did not know what I was going to talk about until last night. I finally just went to the Lord about it, and I said, Lord, show me what you want me to talk about. Show me, just lay it on my heart on what you want me to say. This is part of that ongoing conversation that I mentioned last episode, is I truly do rely on the Lord for everything. And so even little decisions on what am I going to wear today, or what should I eat today, or who should I talk to today, the Lord cares about everything that we have in our lives. If this goes to show how much the Lord cares about you, I had tried to start a sourdough starter of all things. I tried to start one multiple times. My first attempt was back in, I want to say like February, March timeframe, and then tried again in May. Kind of gave up on it because I just kept failing. I kept killing it. I kept whatever. So I'm like, Lord, this is a skill that I want to have. Please help me and guide me. What do I do? How do I do it? All these different things, right? I restarted my sourdough starter, got a clean jar, got the bread flour, all the things. As I'm starting this new starter, I prayed over it. And now it is so big and I can't really even contain it at this point. So I've had lots of yummy bread and bagels and treats and things like that. So the Father hears you. He wants to do life with you. And so these are the kind of conversations that the Lord and I have. And so I was just asking the Lord, I said, what should I talk about tomorrow? I really just want to hear from you. And as I was getting ready for bed last night, I just felt him whisper, a waiting season. All he said was waiting season. And this was a topic that I was eventually going to cover. I just did not know when. This was a topic that I had not even really thought about talking about right now, just because I guess I disregard it. But the Lord took me through an unexpected 9-month waiting season, and I did gently graze over this in my testimony episode. But the Lord honestly deserves way more credit than what I gave in that testimony episode. So I am going to be going more in depth with that today. Little did I know that I actually really needed that waiting season so bad. It was setting me up for success in my next season. It is so incredible to be able to look back on your previous season and see the fruit of it in current day when you felt like you were in the thick of it a couple months ago. In that moment, you feel like you're questioning the Lord on everything. Like, Lord, do I move here? Do I take a step here? Am I through it, Lord? Like, how much longer? Like, you are in the thick of it. You're going through it. But once you are through it, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's why. That's exactly why the Lord had me go through that season. So yes, some of these are going to be repeated details that I've already mentioned, but I'm going to be, like I said, going into more detail into this episode. So in January of 2023, my husband and I moved in with our family. So like I said in my testimony episode, I surrendered to the Lord on December 3rd of 2022. That was a rather quick pace, probably a little over a month between my surrender to us moving in with our family. Our lease was coming up I want to say like the second week of January, and we had received our renewal notice and noticed that they completely jacked up the rent. So it was not something that we really wanted to spend our money on. At that time, we lived on the east side of St. Pete by 4th Street, if you are familiar with St. Petersburg, Florida. We lived by like 4th Street Central, that area. We toured this apartment complex on the west side of St. Pete, much closer to the beach. The location was absolutely perfect. I fell in love. It kind of felt like a resort between the pool, the amenities, the gym, all these different things. And like I said, you are right down the road from the beach. At the time, I was working from home, so it was a work from home paradise when it came to different areas to work in. They had this perfect rooftop cafe. I'm talking, it was stunning. If I were to paint a picture of the perfect place to live on St. Pete Beach, this was it. And then towards the end of the tour, we were told that they did not have any units at the time available. They did have a waiting list that they could put us on. By the time we were ready to move, they were anticipating available units. The starting rent price for this apartment complex was actually the same price that they had just jacked our rent up to. So we justified it. If we're going to pay that much in rent, we might as well move somewhere that we actually want to be, in a location we actually want to be, and a much, much nicer complex. We can't buy a house yet, so we're just kind of stuck. We were already sick of renting. We didn't want to rent anymore. We just hoped and prayed that we were going to be able to get in a unit. Fast forward, we are quickly approaching the move out date for our current apartment, and we're calling. Him and I both were calling. I'm emailing, he's emailing. We're talking to these people like every other day. It felt like I felt terrible because I felt like I was bugging them all the time. But at the same time, we were pretty much about to be homeless unless we figured something out. So my husband actually ends up going to his grandpa's house on a Sunday. I think I was working or something. I'm not sure why I didn't go. When he's over there, he ends up talking to my mother-in-law, kind of tells her the situation, and she opens her door to us and welcomes us into her home until we get the situation figured out. My husband and I talked it over, and obviously we agreed. We would still be moving to the west side of St. Pete, so it's in a more preferred area that we wanted to live in anyway. And I'm sure it's only going to be maybe a month, so we thought that we were going to be living there. So this is just kind of like a halfway point until we figured this situation out. So we moved into their place in January 2023. I will never forget this. I remember this like yesterday when we were done moving. We had moved all day. We had my husband's aunt help us, her boyfriend. After we were done moving, I ate dinner, took a shower, just laid in bed, and we had the window open because it was January in Florida, and that's actually really beautiful weather. Some nights it can get really cold, like 40s, I would say. But that night it was absolutely beautiful. But I just listened to the wind blow at night, and I just laid there and I felt this peace, the same peace that I had when I wrote my surrender letter. And it genuinely felt like somebody that had been treading water for so long finally made it to shore and was just laying there and resting. I remember that was the first time in a very long time that I slept really well. And there was this just peace about the situation. And I just felt so good, even though I felt like my stuff was all over the place. We went from 1,000 square feet in a 1-bedroom apartment to a spare bedroom. So half of our stuff was in storage. The other half was in the spare bedroom that we would use on a daily basis. But I knew it was the Lord's direction that brought us to that spare bedroom. And I am so grateful. Like, words cannot describe how grateful I am for that season that we had. And I thank our family time and time again, over and over again, because it genuinely did change the trajectory of my husband and I's future. But at the time, like I said in the previous episode, there are some doors that slammed right in my face, and I know why. Others, I didn't know why. Now I know why the apartment slammed shut in our face, but at the time I didn't, and I was really upset about it. It was my dream to live there, but God had other plans. I got a new job the week of Valentine's Day, actually, and just tried to come up with a new routine. Obviously, I was living in another part of town, trying to get my bearings, trying to get a new routine established. Obviously, living with other people, we had to share bathrooms and living situations and living areas and all these different things. There was a lot of different things that I was having to adjust to, I felt like, all at once. I started working actually not far from where we were living, and I started working at a resort on St. Pete Beach. I made pretty decent money. I actually went in trying to get a hotel manager job, but I had no management experience, so I don't know if it was delusion or what, trying to get a job as a hotel manager. But I did end up working front desk, and it was a pretty fun job. I really liked my coworkers. Shout out if you're listening. Love you guys. But I did make hourly and bonus, so I made pretty decent money. I honestly just put my head down and stacked money away. I started reading my Bible more often. I started to get a morning routine together. I was working with a life coach at the time, and so she really helped me get my routines established, my morning routine, and really helped me through this transition. Working with her helped me through a lot, and just talking to somebody really, really helped as well. I felt like a baby Christian walking with the Lord again, and not just having a pastor spoon feed me the word or a sermon or something like that. I genuinely wanted to read the Bible. I started a Bible reading plan. I tried to have that quiet time with the Lord. I really genuinely, through all of this, was just trying to listen to his voice. In January, we moved in. Around March or April, after about 2-3 months of living with our family, we are quickly realizing that after calling and emailing and all these different things, that everybody else really liked this apartment complex too. And we were not getting an available unit, meaning no units were coming available. Nobody was moving out. Everybody was extending their lease. So we were quickly realizing we were not moving into the apartment that we fell in love with. We sit down and we talk about it, and I was really upset. I kind of was throwing a little bit of a fit because at the time life just felt all over the place and I just wanted some sort of order. And obviously, my husband and I had just gotten married. We were newlyweds and we wanted our own space. And that frustration quickly turned into me going back to my old ways of going into new age practices. I wanted to get my tarot cards read as far as the timeline of everything and trying to figure it all out. So I would have some sense of knowing what direction we were going in. I would listen to horoscope readings according to my rising sign so I can try to figure out when we would be out of this situation. I wanted to control this situation. I did not want to wait on the Lord because that was taking so long. I needed an answer right then and there, and I did not care how I was going to get it. So my husband and I started to have a conversation of what was next. What was our next move? What was our next goal? Where do we see ourselves? We can't rent the place we wanted to go. We didn't want to rent another apartment. We didn't want to live with our family, obviously, forever. So our only other option was to buy a house. I started working like crazy to pay off my debt, to jack up my credit score, to prepare to buy a house, as well as save all the things. So I put my head down and just got to work. I had a car payment. I had my minimum credit card payments, obviously gas, groceries, and we helped out our family financially with letting us live there. And I was tithing. And I just had tunnel vision to get it done. I would track my bonuses at work. I had a spreadsheet to track my credit card balances. I tracked my spending. One thing that I also will say that really helped me was I created a wants list. And for anybody that really struggles with impulse spending, this trick that I taught myself, I don't even know where it came from, probably the Lord, because I created this thing called a wants list and I still have it in my phone. I create a wants list in my phone. Anytime I want something, I put it in the list. Unless it's like $10 or something like that, then I really don't think about it too much. But at that time, I put everything on the wants list. Anytime I saw something like an Instagram ad that I wanted, I put it on the wants list. Anytime I saw one of my favorite companies release a new product, I put it on the wants list. Anytime I'm out at the mall and I see something I want, I put it on the wants list. And I would give it a couple months. I would give it at least a month or two before I really decided to buy something. If I did have a little bit of extra money, I would go to my wants list, which, by the way, this is a really good tip for that way you have birthday ideas, you have Christmas ideas of stuff you actually want. So then by the time that people ask you, hey, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for Christmas? You have your wants list. You can pull that up and here you go. But it also reduces spending because I have had so many things that I put on that wants list that I gave it a month, 2 months, possibly 3. I go back to the wants list every once in a while and I'm like, I don't really want that. I don't really care to have that. So I take it off the list. So it has prevented so much spending and saved me so much money. So I highly recommend starting a wants list if you struggle with something like that. Which my lovely, amazing mom, who guided me through this whole process of raising my credit score, paying off debt, the debt snowball, all these different things. I am going to be having her as a guest on the podcast. She has helped so many people raise their credit score, get on a budget. She is a loan officer, mortgage broker. She's so incredible. She's a leader in her industry, and I would love for her to come on here to talk all things money, talk all things budgeting and credit scores and stuff like that. She's very successful in the mortgage lending industry and has helped so many people get into homes. So I definitely owe my financial growth to tithing to my church, as well as my mom guiding me through it. But anyway, so we're saving for months. I'm paying off all my debt. I'm paying off at this rate, I'm paying off about $2,000, close to $2,000 a month, just directly to credit card debts. We get pre-approved, we start working with a real estate agent, he starts showing us properties, all these different things. We were wanting something that is referred to a pig with lipstick. Essentially, we were wanting the worst house on the street so then we could put some sweat equity into it to obviously make a little bit of a return on it. A fixer-upper that really just does a good return on value. However, unfortunately, if you live in Florida, unless you have a really big pre-approval, if you have a lot of money that you're working with, that is possible to do. But in our case, just to even get into a house that was not just absolutely ransacked, we would have absolutely had to max out our pre-approval with no budget left over to do any fixer-upper things. But we kept looking. We didn't let it discourage us. There just really was not a lot of inventory to work with in the first place. We finally find one that we like. It's in a pretty decent area. It definitely would have needed new windows, definitely an updated kitchen. Nothing too major. Like, we could have definitely lived in it while the renovations were happening. It was livable. We put in an offer. The real estate agent didn't like our offer, wanted a stronger one. We didn't have a stronger one, so they declined our offer. We find another house in an okay area, and we called it the poop brown house because the walls were literally painted poop brown. And I'm not kidding when I say that. The whole house, every single wall was poop brown. So it definitely needed a lot of work. It was cheaper than the first one that we liked. To be honest with you, I thought we found it. Yes, it was definitely a fixer-upper. It was in a okay area, not the best, but not the worst. I've seen worse. We put in an offer. We went under contract. That was actually on August 22nd, we went under contract. So literally a year ago this week, which is wild to me, all that has happened in 1 year. We send in our escrow deposit, get the inspection. Now, what I'm about to tell you, if you are looking for a home, if you are about to start looking for a home, if you are in the market for a home, if you want to be a homeowner one day, or anything regarding purchasing a home, if you don't listen to anything else I say besides Jesus is Lord, let it be this. When you are buying a house, for the love of all that is good in this world, get the inspection. And if a listing agent realtor says no inspections in the negotiations, run for the hills. Do not move any further. Back away slowly and do not buy that house. Because we all know the saying, love is blind. That applied to this situation right here. That applies to home buying as a whole as well. The inspection came back on the poop brown house that we walked through. We didn't see anything wrong with it. We genuinely were excited about it. And this inspection, I laugh about it now, but this inspection came back failed with flying colors. I mean, there was no installation in the ceiling. There were 7 electrical errors that probably could have killed somebody. There was no plumbing. I wonder if I still have the pictures, because I will put them on the Proverbs 31 Creatives Instagram for you guys to laugh at this with me, because there was no plumbing underneath the sink. I don't know why none of us, between me, my husband, and the realtor, none of us looked under the sink. If I would have seen this, I probably would not have even gone through with the inspection or gone under contract, because there was no plumbing underneath the sink. There were pots and pans, and I'm not kidding when I say that. Pots and pans. But fear not, they were replacing the roof next week, so we're all good, right? You guys can go ahead and go through with the purchase of the home. Absolutely not. I don't think so. So after all of that, we pull out of the offer, we pull out of escrow, we get our escrow deposit back. That was on the 25th. So I am riding on a high between the 23rd, 24th, and then it came crashing down on the 25th. And talk about a timely message, because my pastor on the 27th, which that was a Sunday, my pastor taught a message on a waiting season, waiting on the Lord. It forever changed my outlook on waiting on the Lord in a waiting season. I mean, talk about a timely message. I was in tears at the end of the sermon because every single detail he hit on was exactly how I felt. We see it over the course of multiple chapters, but I do highly suggest you go and read and study Joseph's story starting in Genesis 37. We see Joseph start this journey with what would be a great waiting season. He has a prophetic dream at the age of 17 where his brothers bow down to him. His brothers hated him for it, so they sold him into slavery and faked his death. Talk about jealousy. When he was a slave to a high-ranking officer of Pharaoh, the officer's wife faked Joseph wanting to sleep with her and caused the officer to throw Joseph in prison. And then fast forward to chapter 40, we see Joseph in prison and his fellow prisoners have dreams. Joseph was gifted with having prophetic dreams and the interpretation of dreams, which we will talk about spiritual gifts at some point as well. But he tells his fellow prisoners the meaning of their dreams, and obviously he's correct because the Lord gave him that interpretation. And they go and tell Pharaoh. And as they're leaving, Joseph says, "Hey, remember me when you get to Pharaoh and get me out of this place." Unfortunately, this is where the waiting season starts because the fellow prisoner unfortunately did not tell Pharaoh about Joseph. Until my pastor preached this, I grazed over this part. And I thought Joseph was waiting in this prison for like a couple days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. Nothing crazy. He was in there for years. And the fellow prisoner did not remember him at all. So Joseph is just down there, just in jail, just feeling hopeless. And then it says, in my Bible, it says, Genesis chapter 41, verse 1, then it came to pass at the end of 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream. So that's when Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream and becomes Pharaoh's right-hand man that oversaw the crops and the harvest because he was able to interpret Pharaoh's dream. But think about this. Joseph spent years, we don't know exactly how long, I believe it's 2, but I'm not 100% sure. But think about this. Joseph spent years in a foreign prison. He spoke Hebrew, they spoke Egyptian, which it is 2 different languages. It was a different culture. In Egyptian prisons, they actually have classes. They teach the prisoners. They don't just let them sit and rot in jail. Egyptian prisons, if you dive into it, they actually have like a school in prison. So they're learning while they're in jail. During that time, the Lord was training Joseph. He learned the language, he learned the culture, he learned everything that he was needing to do to prepare him for this next season of being Pharaoh's right-hand man. The Lord wasn't able to just put Joseph in this position because he had no idea what he was talking about. He had no idea anything about the culture, anything about the language. So how could he be a ruler? He was not only preparing Joseph, but he was preparing the environment and getting it ready for Joseph to become that second in command. This is a quote from my pastor from that sermon that he taught on waiting seasons, and I'm just going to read it. God is arranging stuff right now behind the scenes for you to walk in your purpose. But if you walk into it too quickly, it's not only that you might not be ready, but the scenario might not be ready yet. Maybe it's not you that God is trying to get ready. Maybe it's the person you're praying for, he's trying to get them ready. Maybe it's the job he's trying to get ready. Maybe even the cultural climate isn't ready for you to step on the scenes yet. So you've got to be okay with the fact that God has a perfect timing for me to walk into my destiny. It just might not be right now yet. So that night after service, my husband looks at me and he asks, "What are your thoughts on moving back to Cincinnati?" I felt a pit in my stomach. I did not want to move back. I immediately said no. I immediately was against it. I genuinely felt like if I moved back, it would be like me going home with my tail tucked between my legs, like I failed, not being able to make it on my own. It was definitely an ego thing. I just did not want to go. I thought I was so happy in Florida. So we were on the phone with my mom, my stepdad, me, my husband, all 4 of us were on the phone. And my husband told them that he wanted to move up north and how hesitant I was. I went to bed that night so upset. I actually was looking at listings on Zillow for places, townhouses, homes to buy up here in Cincinnati. And I went to bed. I thought about it. I woke up the next morning and I said, you know what? Okay, let's go. So once we made that decision, once I said, yes, we're moving, it was like we could not get up here fast enough. So that was on August 28th. We decided to move. We come up here in September, like September 10th through the 12th, I think we were up here. And then on October 2nd, we were in Ohio. That's how quickly everything happened. So when the Lord wants you to move, literally and physically, it'll happen. It'll move. But those 9 months of us staying with family financially prepared me to walk into my next season with very little debt. We decided that once I had left my job in Florida, that I actually would not go back to a regular everyday job, that I would use this financial momentum to just start my business. I had my business plan. I had everything ready to go. All that was needed was clients. We had money saved up as a cushion. So then it gave me time to start to get some money coming in. From where I was at to where I was at when we moved out of my family's place, there would have been no way I would have been able to financially just up and leave steady income. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I could not have taken that step of faith. But the Lord prepared the way and opened up those doors. He prepared those doors from even my husband. There was a job opening at the place he wanted to work right as we were moving into Ohio, so he was able to start work right away. It's like everything just fit like a glove. It's like everything just fit together so perfectly like a puzzle. The Lord paved our way. It felt like overnight. I even have it on my Instagram story that I wanted to share this testimony with my Instagram followers at the time. But I said, the Lord just picked us up and moved us out of Florida in just over a month. So I just need a second to breathe. So here it is. Here is the full testimony of how we moved from Florida to Ohio and how God guided our every single step. If you are currently in a waiting season, I know they can be so troubling. They can be so confusing. And I just pray peace over you right now. I pray that the Lord would just guide you through this. I speak peace into your current season. Let it not be a wasted season, but let it be a preparing season for you in the circumstances that you're in. Maybe you're in a waiting season, a single season, waiting for a spouse. Maybe you're waiting for a new job. Maybe you're in a living situation like I was and you're trying to figure out your next steps. Whatever that may be, I just pray and I speak life into the situation for you, that the Lord would guide you through this, and that He would just begin to show you what He's doing, that He would begin to open up your eyes into what He has for you and why you're in this season. And even if He doesn't, I ask that you would just have peace over the situation and that you would fully trust Him through this, that He would walk you through every single step. Begin just to get quiet with Him and just to spend time with Him. Learn His voice and listen for His voice. Listen for His guidance and His understanding, and He will give you provision. Father, right now I ask that you would just show them your face, even in the little things, Father. And I wasn't even going to say this, but I just feel like I'm supposed to. In Exodus chapter 40, when the Israelites follow the cloud, I just feel like that's for somebody today, that you would just follow the cloud and that the Lord would be your provision, that He would be your guidance. I just speak that over somebody right now. And that you would just listen for the Lord and you would listen for His guidance and you would follow His every step. Lord, right now, even as somebody is listening to this, Father, I ask that you would just show them your peace and your love and your understanding, Lord. Give them a heavenly understanding and guidance through this situation, Father. Show them more of you, Father, in their everyday, God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So I will be praying for you guys this week. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Friday. Go get that coffee, like I said. And I will be talking to you guys very soon. Have a great rest of your week and weekend. If this blessed you today, share this with another Proverbs 31 creatives and help me grow the show to get it out to more women just like you. Have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope this episode blessed you today. If it did, please rate and review the show. It helps grow the podcast to reach more Proverbs 31 creatives just like you. Don't forget to follow the show so you'll automatically be notified when the next episode drops. I'll be praying for you. See you next week.